Hey, this is Mark Henry back again to talk to you more about the occult and paranormal. Well, first I want to thank my viewers. If you are watching this, you are either in the Magician or the Sorcerer's tier of Patreon, so I want to thank everybody who is supporting me on Patreon. Patreon allows me to do some of the things that I want to do. It gives me a little bit of extra income so that I can devote more time to doing some videos and different projects, which you're going to see as time moves on in these sort of tiers. So let's get started. So this video is about the kind of the overall idea of money magic, but specifically how to dress money. So what is dressing money? Well, one, it comes from the hoodoo southern tradition, the African southern tradition of hoodoo. And that is kind of a tradition that has been adopted by other type of traditions. It's a lot of people who practice voodoo practice that. Here in Louisiana, in the southern states, there are more people kind of working on that type of stuff. But I kind of want to talk about money dressing as a form of money magic. And I'm going to take you all step by step through the process, so there shouldn't be many questions about how to go about doing it. But you're going to need a few things. Sage, which isn't completely necessary, but it's kind of a preference that I have, and I'll explain to you a little bit why that is my preference. You need sage, you need some type of money oil, you're going to need a pen, perhaps some incense if you want to take your dollar bill and kind of blow it, kind of let it go over the smoke, like something like bayberry or some type of money drawing incense. And that's basically it. So we're going to kind of just jump right into that. So why sage? Okay, in case for those people who've never seen sage, so this is sage. This is a sage bundle. Sage, if I remember correctly, is primarily from the Native American tradition. It purifies the space. It can purify objects by by just coming in contact with smoke. But it's also been adopted in New Age spirituality for the same sort of reasons. So sage is definitely something that can come in very handy whenever you're doing some of these activities. So why go about and use it for money magic, and specifically dressing money? But before I get into that, let me say this, is that I am using a dollar bill, a $1 bill, but anybody can use a 5 or a 10 or any other type of denomination. I just like to use the $1 bill for this particular exercise. So you're going to be saging the dollar bill just because of the different psychic vibrations that could come off of the dollar bill. I used to be of the idea that dollar bills could not hold a particular charge. When I first was starting out several years ago, what was being said back then was that metal and a couple other things were predominantly the things that would hold a charge, but paper and fabric, not so much. What I know from a dollar bill is that it is kind of mostly kind of less paper and more fabric. That being said, I think I was more kind of mistaken back then, because it can hold enough of a charge. So why should we worry about this? We should worry about this because this dollar bill in the past may have encountered some pretty nefarious situations. This dollar bill could have changed hands and transacted among people who were doing all kind of illegal activities. It could have been transacted in circumstances of prostitution, drug dealing, money laundering. Somebody could be clutching it, in fits of anger or anxiety. So this dollar bill, may have quite a history behind it, and it may not be ready specifically for this type of activity that you're going to do. So you use the sage in order to cleanse it. That is my preference, again. So the whole idea of the dollar bill, the money dressing, is that this dollar bill will draw to you other dollar bills. It will be kind of a magnet of sorts. So what else? After you sage your dollar bill, what comes next? Well, you're going to want to personalize it. The way to personalize it is I would write your initials on it. I would not write your entire name, and I'll say why in a second. So I would write maybe in a corner, maybe your initials. I would also maybe take a little bit of saliva, maybe put it on the edge, maybe at the bottom. And it doesn't take much, and you're not going to want to put too much. But you want this dollar bill to be kind of attuned to you. Now, since I mentioned initializing it and not writing it on it, let me tell you about the disclaimer that I was about to tell you about. And that is, my wife used to work in the banking industry, and she said technically that when you write on a bill that it is defacing like federal government property, it's defacing currency, it is making some type of changes to currency that is unlawful. Okay. Now, that being said, this isn't very enforceable. I've seen plenty of dollar bills that had little letters and stray marks and all type of different things. So there's no one looking over anyone's shoulder. It's like, I got you. I'm going to put you in the federal penitentiary for defacing money. It usually doesn't work that way. That being said, I wouldn't put my full name on the dollar bill. I might put the initials. And however, if you don't, with that disclaimer, you don't feel comfortable writing on the dollar bill with a pen, even if it's small, you don't feel comfortable with that, you can just as easily take a toothpick and maybe a little oil and make a couple marks. You could do the old school thing that we used to do when I was little. If we want to make invisible ink, we use lemon juice. It'll just disappear, but it'll still retain the mark. And by the way, the overall thing about personalizing it and writing it, per se, is because you're going to want to set your intention. What do you want this dollar bill to do for you? So for this particular overall objective would be to draw money. So as you're writing, you're initializing and doing these different things, what you're going to want to do is start to imagine and kind of create a little bit of a desire for this dollar bill, your dollar bill. It's personalized to you to draw you further money, further dollar bills. Now, other things that you can write on here, because you now have your individuality, your individual energy, you're personalized it into the dollar bill. What you're also going to want is your intention. Now, you don't have to write a full statement of intention. Is my will to make $100 extra this month? I wouldn't do that. Again, we're dealing with Magick. We can use symbols. So I would, on here, maybe write, the dollar sign, 100. Maybe like a little slash mark, very small, month. You want $100 a month, for example, extra money that you're not making now. So you can put that on there. You're also going to want to use your oil. I myself have money drawing oil. Now, money drawing oil is something that I like. I would suggest that you only buy from reputable botanicas, occult stores, New Age shops, or online stores. So if it's online, or if there's a way for you to go and check out the particular, reputation, customer reviews, that type of stuff, I would go in that route. So you're going to be taking your dollar bill, take a little bit, and you're going to be putting it on each of the corners, maybe even a dab on Washington's nose. Again, the oil is going to make kind of a slight, I guess, stain. It's going to look like it's wet because, again, this is part, I think this is part fabric. But this is going to be, this is what's starting to make it into a magnet to you. So let me say this too, because I don't think I've mentioned it yet. Why a dollar bill? It's not because I'm cheap or anything like that. It's not because I don't want to do a $5 bill and spend a $5 bill. I kind of like $1 bills because if you look at the back, and if you can't see that, you have your own $1 bills, I'm sure. So if you look at the back, you're going to see a lot of very mystical, occult type of symbols and languages. You're going to have Latin on the back of here. You're going to have Inuit Keoptis. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. It basically says, "May the divine favor us." Under that, Novus Ordo Seclorum, which means can be translated as New World Order, New Order of the Ages. And then they have Egyptian symbology of the pyramid with the eye at the top near the peak. Many say it's the Eye of Horus. The all-seeing eye of the divine, watching whatever you do. On the other side, where the eagle is, you'll see E pluribus unum, which I think is also Latin. Out of many come one. Now, why is this all in here? Well, from what my research is that many of the early forefathers were Freemasons, which used a lot of occult symbology. And they were, if you think about it, we're doing dollar bill magic. They may have been doing their own dollar bill magic in order to maybe attract the favor of God or the divine to help the country. Who knows? Well, anyway, that's why I chose the dollar bill. If you haven't looked at that stuff, please check it out sometime. Okay. And like I mentioned, while you're doing all these different types of things, think about your intention. What do you want the dollar bill to do? If by the end of you personalizing and putting the oil and all that type of stuff, if you feel like the intention is not embedded in there, then feel free to hold it between your palms and put more of an intention. You can also, as far as the symbols are concerned, if you have a particular spirit, a money-drawing spirit, a prosperity entity that you're working with, for example, let's say you're working with the egoic spirit Bune, if you wanted to put in some small place the sigil of Bune, then feel free to do that. I know Bune has given me tasks when I've worked with him before that involve dollar bills, so it might be something to consider. So now you have it, What do you do with it? Well, one is you can spend it. You can send it back into the general population. I've used dollar bills to tip waitresses in restaurants and things like that. I've also taken dollar bills and as a kind of a kind gesture, I've given dollar bills to friends. So I do two things. Well, one is that I'm giving to somebody that they can spend for their own needs. And also, as it's going out, it is drawing more money to me. Another thing you can do is that you're not limited to spending this or giving it away. You can actually take this dollar bill and include another magic. Let's say that you wanted to do candle magic, and you took your green candle, you wrote your intention along the sides, you dressed your candle with oil, and it's in a nice, tapers in a nice crystal candle holder, and you put the dollar bill under it. You do your invocations, evocations, or whatever you feel like is necessary, and you burn your candle with the dollar bill under it. That would be something else you can do. But there's different, like I said, there's different ways of doing dollar bill magic. I've put it on the altar of the entity Hecate on top of a pentacle, and I've let particular entities to charge the dollar bills. So you're not limited to this. So this is just part of this is a specific way of going about doing money magic, but it is part of an overall, I guess, category of money magic, and there are different ways of doing each. That's basically it. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you understood and got something valuable out of it. You will have more videos coming if you're a part of the Magician and Sorcerer's Tiers. So, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.